Good morning, Broncos country. Welcome back to the Kickin the Can show here on the Crushing It podcast. I am your host, as always, Miles Smith, and today we're going to get a little bit nerdy here in some of the stats. Really, we're just expanding into EPA, but I am going to use this video to tell you that next year, Bo Nix is seriously going to be one of the best quarterbacks we watch. Year one to year two, there was a little bit of regression before we kind of got that second half of the season jump from Bo as we got in his rookie season. But this year, the raw numbers, even some of these numbers under the hood, and we're really going to look at EPA during this just because I think it's a great stat to really show how effective a quarterback is. We're using the website sumersports.com here, but before we get started, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are on the road to 500 subscribers, 409 as I record this, and without further ado, let's get into this. So for context, the minimum play threshold that I'm using here, or threshold I guess is the way to say it, is 100. I think that's a good enough baseline for just getting a decent, pull of quarterbacks here, some starters, some backups that played, a starter's amount, just a qualifying number so we're not here scrolling all day through backups that played 10 plays all year and just looked really good in those 10 snaps. So we look over what we've got here. So this is ranked by EPA on the season, just how good the quarterback was. Yeah, names like Drake May, Jordan Love, EPA, he's a guy EPA really loves what he did. Matt Stafford, Josh Allen, Mahomes, your pretty run-of-the-mill guys. Who's there at 10? That would be Bo Nix in the 10 slot by EPA. 63.64 expected points added to his team. And now what's really exciting as well, because again, we can kind of pull some of these under the hood stats here. I believe the darker the box, the better in that category he is. So sack percentage, Bo Nix, one of the lowest out of the qualified quarterbacks at 3.28%. Bo Nix does not take sacks, and I think that this offensive line is maybe a little overvalued at times this season, because I can tell you right now that it was not pretty from this O-line all season long. Pass yards, again, 39, 31. It ranks him 8th in the league. He would have had 4,200 at least if it weren't for the drops. And we'll talk about kind of some outside additions that could lead to Bo Nix being better next season. His time to throw, Shedeur Sanders took the longest. Let's kind of flip that back around here. In the shortest time to throw, let's go find our guy Bo Nix. So Bo Nix, he did hold on to the ball just a little bit, 2.72 average time to throw. Not the greatest time to throw, but of course it gives him time to survey the field. I think that's a good middle ground, and you see a lot of these elite quarterbacks up here as well. Jordan Love, Josh Allen. Let's forget that Jake Browning exists for a second. Herbo, Hurts. Who else was here? Drake May in the 7 as well. So, not the end-all be-all stat there, but I think it's a nice little under-the-hood stat to give a little bit of context for why Bo Nix excites me so damn much going into next year. So we'll go back to this total EPA sorting here, because again, you gotta wonder how much better these numbers would have been from Bo if it weren't for his receivers dropping so many goddamn passes, because that was a huge issue all year. Bo Nix's receiving core led the league in drops, and it was some ridiculous number. I remember listening to something about it on 104.3, The Fan. So credit to those guys. I love listening to those guys in the morning when I go to work. Shoot me a call if y'all want to collab or something, Lamau. Anyways, so let's keep this pushing. So what numbers are the ones that really made me sit here and say Bo Nix is legit going to be a top 5 quarterback next season? Let's go to when trailing. Holy God. Bo Nix, best quarterback when trailing by far. And, we saw that with the eye test this season. The amount of comebacks that Bo Nix was able to orchestrate this season was unbelievable. It was when Bo Nix was at his absolute best, and we saw that time after time this season, and of course, for a good stretch of multiple games in a row. Now, of course, you could expect some regression to the mean, but I think we saw this year that Bo Nix has that clutch gene in him. I'm not saying, that this will translate. I'm making a prediction here, and I think that based off of what I saw and what the numbers say, that Bo Nix will be one of the best quarterbacks next year. Total EPA of 84.93 when trailing. That's higher than his EPA in general. 0.28 EPA per play. And again, and a pretty solid sample size as well, although you could argue that Matt Stafford was better in some of these situations, that Caleb Williams was better in these situations, but he doesn't have the EPA that Bo does on 343 or 40 total more plays. Nix had a 68.34 passing EPA, 16.59, and that's the X factor that keeps a guy like Matthew Stafford under Bo Nix in this sort of situation. I'm not saying Nix is better than Stafford. I'm saying I'm just making the comparisons here. Don't shoot the messenger. As it stands. But his rush EPA, just puts him head and shoulders just as this dual threat guy that when the chips are down can get it done no matter what. Sack percentage drops to 2.05. He doesn't take sacks anyways. He doesn't take sacks when it's crunch time. 1,900 passing yards when trailing. His time to throw does go up by a couple hundredths of a second, but 17 passing touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. Jordan Love in roughly in more than half of those types of plays there already had as many interceptions as Bo did. Trevor Lawrence in 2/3 of the plays there. Michael Penix in 1/3. These are numbers that Bo Nix was in crunch time so often this season, and to see these numbers really put to paper how clutch he was. This is the best way to quantify clutch, I think, other than some sort of wins above replacement stat. But I don't really think football has that. EPA maybe, but that feels more like an OPS plus sort of stat or a slugging stat than this does. We go look as well. We'll look in the red zone, and again, minimum 100 plays, so it's slim pickings here. Bo Nix is the third best quarterback in the red zone, minimum 100 plays, 107 plays in the red zone. Maybe we can be a little more lenient with that here. Let's go minimum 50 plays in the red zone, and we're going to see guys like Brock Purdy, who was hurt for times this year. Jalen Hurts on an anemic offense was still really good in the red zone, and we'll go by total EPA here. Still, Bo Nix is the 7th best quarterback in the red zone from this previous season. You could argue that some of the red zone issues were his fault, but 17 touchdowns to only 1 turnover in the red zone, 5 rushing touchdowns that he adds in the red zone. That's 22 total touchdowns that he put up in the red zone. Just absolutely wonderful numbers here. And the idea is, and I believe Sean Payton has said something about this, that year 3 is really when a quarterback starts to grasp the system. With Nix going into year 3, I think that us Broncos fans should be really damn excited about what we think we can see from Bo Nix year 2 to year 3. And there are going to be some outside factors that certainly impact that. There is not a doubt in my mind that the Denver Broncos will be going out to get a legitimate number 1 receiver, and I don't know if that looks like a trade. I think you've got a guy in someone like a Riley Moss that you could use as a trade token in that. Really, I do feel like he is the odd man out in this defensive backfield of the Broncos there. I think his value is as high as it's going to get. I think you could ship him off with a first or a second even, and get yourself a pretty premium target there for Bo Nix. Obviously, Pickens, I believe, got the franchise tag from Dallas, but I could be wrong about that. But I saw Justin Jefferson getting floated, but even in free agency, there are still going to be options here, and I got to refresh myself on free agent wide receivers going into this offseason. But some of these names could be guys that elevate Bo Nix, and then you've got guys in the draft as well that I think are going to be really good as well. So we'll look through some of these free agents here, because I think there's a chance you go snag Bo Nix a number 1 in free agency. This is Sport Track, by the way, so shout out to their website. But you got guys like Mike Evans. You got a guy like a Christian Kirk. A Deebo Samuel, who I think you stay away from. But, I mean, a DeAndre Hopkins, definitely back end of his career. You know, a lot of these guys are kind of older options. But I've seen a few other guys kind of get floated around and maybe come be a bit of a game breaker here. Alec Pierce in here. Again, George Pickens. Am I sorting by the wrong thing here? I need to go by market value. Yep, there we go. Yeah, Pickens, Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson is a name that I've seen floated around. I think that could be an interesting pickup for the Broncos. Only 25 years old. Same idea with George Pickens. Not even 25. He'll be 25 sometime over the offseason, sometime soon. Actually, Mike Evans, 32, but still a damn good receiver when he can stay healthy. Romeo Doubs was solid for the Packers this season. There are some names here in free agency that I definitely think that you should consider. But really, I think it's Pickens, Robinson, or nobody else. I don't know how I feel about Alec Pierce, and that's maybe you can flame me in the comments if you think he can really develop into a number one and not just kind of a fly route fuck it guy. I think you've got that kind of player in Marvin Mims. So that's kind of my take on the Alec Pierce discourse that I've seen, time to time. So let's go look at some of these draft receivers real quick, because there are some good names that I think Denver could take either late first round. Maybe you've got to trade up a little bit. And we'll go look at the prospect rankings here. These will be the CBS Sports rankings here for the draft. So these are your wide receivers. Jordan Tyson likely to go high. He's a guy that has, I mean, this guy is outstanding, and I gotta do some deep dives on these guys. But even as a guy that doesn't really follow college football, these are names that I have still heard. Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon. You get that USC connection with the coach we just hired for the secondary. Not that it would do much, but you get the idea. Casey Conception, Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. We just saw Indiana have a really good season, and he was kind of that guy for Fernando Mendoza. Denzel Boston is a guy that I've seen floated around. I know Denver Sports made a video, and I think they talked me into Denzel Boston. I think you could take him at 30 and be fine. And then just some of these other guys that you could get a little further down the board as well. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Denver can help Bo Nix. But the point of this video, and this is the statement that I will leave you with, bold prediction here, all right? Bo Nix, this time next season, we will be talking about him being a top 5 quarterback. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, I am on my way to 500 subscribers, and I would greatly appreciate the love and support. I already very much greatly appreciate the love and support that I already have. Huge shout out to the Ender Game Show for the graphics that, he's helped me do. He did the layout. He did all this good stuff. Bok Choi, as always, for being a supporter and a mod. Trent as well, my co-host when we do MTTF. And if I've missed you, just know that you are still in my heart and in my mind here. Thank you so much for watching Broncos Country. I will see you in the next one. Peace.